Israel's action is directed against the Palestinian people throughout Gaza and the West Bank. South Africa's request was initially focused on Rafah because the imminent prospect of death and suffering on a massive scale resulting from Israel's attack. But since that request was made, it has become increasingly clear that Israel's actions in Rafah are part of the endgame, in which Gaza is utterly destroyed as an area capable of human habitation. This is the last step in the destruction of Gaza and its Palestinian people. It was Rafah that brought South Africa to the court, but it is all Palestinians as a national, ethnical and racial group who need the protection from genocide that the court can order. We've heard expressions of outrage that anyone could accuse Israel of acting in this way. We've heard assurances that Israel was doing everything in its power to avoid civilian deaths as it exercised its claimed right of self-defense. We've heard boasts that Israel's army is the most moral army in history. And we've heard denials that there is famine in Gaza. For months, people, particularly in the West, have appeared unwilling to accept that the accusations are true. How could people who look like us and sound like us possibly engage in anything like genocide? But the evidence has to be faced. My colleagues will take you to that evidence, including evidence of continued bombings, attacks on people in so-called safe areas to which they've been directed by Israel, attacks on aid convoys, and of mass graves and the horrors of which the corpses speak. There is no credible argument that this catastrophe is not real. The court has already found a real and imminent risk of the violation of the rights of the Palestinian people to protection against genocide. The court is aware of the statements of the United Nations Secretary General, of the President of the United States, of heads of state and foreign ministers from around the world, and of the heads of international aid agencies. They, and the personal accounts and the news footage that emerges from Gaza, tell a consistent story of unimaginable horror. And it continues as we speak. Most of Gaza has been razed. The survivors who are from time to time allowed to return to their homes are returning to rubble, with no homes, no running water or electricity. If the court does not act now, the possibility of rebuilding a viable Palestinian society in Gaza will be destroyed, at least for the lifetime of those who survive the current horrors of Gaza. The details are not always easy to verify because Israel continues to bar independent investigators and journalists from entering Gaza. And over 100 journalists who were in Gaza have been killed since the Israeli attacks began. But Israel cannot block investigations by independent investigators and then say that the court cannot proceed because there is insufficient evidence against it. The court has to deal with this case on the basis of its appraisal of the best evidence available to it. Israel may again invoke its claimed right of self-defense, but it does not address three glaringly obvious points. First, the right of self-defense does not give a state a license to use unlimited violence. No right of self-defense can ever extend to a right to inflict massive, indiscriminate violence and starvation collectively on an entire people. Second, nothing, not self-defense or anything else, can ever justify genocide. The prohibition on genocide is absolute, a peremptory norm of international law. Third, the court ruled in 2004 that there is no right of self-defense by an occupying state against the territory that it occupies. The key point today is that Israel's declared aim of wiping Gaza from the map is about to be realized. Further, evidence of appalling crimes and atrocities is literally being destroyed and bulldozed, in effect wiping the slate clean for those who've committed these crimes and making a mockery of justice. The court is not powerless, and South Africa submits with respect that it must do something to assert not only its own authority, but the authority of international law.